Let's go to another topic, specifically NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick this weekend refusing to stand for the national anthem. He told reporters why after the preseason game.
I'll continue to sit. I'm going to continue to stand with the people that are being oppressed. To me, this is something that has to change. And when there's significant change, and I feel like that flag represents what it's supposed to represent, and this country is representing people the way that it's supposed to, I'll stand.
Obviously, his actions have angered a whole lot of people, including veterans and service members who literally put their lives on the line to ensure our freedom. Among those troubled by Kaepernick's actions, Gold Star mom Debbie Lee. In an open letter to the 49ers quarterback, she writes, and I quote, "What Kaepernick did is a disgrace to the sacrifice of many service members, including Mark Lee, her son." Let's welcome in Debbie Lee now. She joins us via Skype from Arizona. Debbie is the founder of America's Mighty Warriors, a Gold Star mom. And we know about the sacrifice of her son, Mark Lee, a Navy SEAL who gave it all in the line of duty. And Debbie, we appreciate your time, and it seems we always get together to talk about difficulties that arise and a confusion about rights and responsibilities. Let me just ask you straight up. Were Kaepernick's actions a slap in the face to the memory of your son?
JD, it was more than a slap in the face. I felt like a knife had been stabbed in my heart and twisted. I was actually at that game that night. I don't know, at the time I thought, it was a misfortune that our bus was delayed and that we missed the national anthem. But looking back now, to have been there in that stadium and witnessed that firsthand would have been even more devastating. I think I probably would have gone down to the sidelines and tried to get in there and tried to get his attention or the team's attention and, raise a ruckus down there, because it's disgusting. He says that he can't stand, the flag doesn't represent what this country is anymore. Does he know that red stripe in the flag represents each and every man and woman who sacrificed their life, whose blood represents that red on that stripe? Obviously, that young man doesn't know what that flag stands for or what we have come from. That's what that also represents. And he has a right to stand and to protest and to use his voice. He has free speech. That's what my son and so many others have fought for, those freedoms that he enjoys each and every day. But to disrespect that very flag that represents our country, to disrespect the service of every man and woman who's given so much so that flag could fly and that we could make the changes that we've had in America. If he looks back through history, from where we came from to where we are now, it is such an amazing difference. Mark talked about that in his last letter home. And as I thought about this, mulled this over the day after we've been to the game, and knowing I needed to do something and speak out, I thought about Mark's letter. And he talked about Colin in there, not Colin personally, but he talked about multi-million-dollar sports heroes who complain about not getting, more than they're currently getting paid. And I thought, I need to use that in there. And then I began to reread Mark's letter, and Mark talks about some of.
And we seem to have trouble with that transmission. While we try to repair that Skype, let me read some of what Mark wrote in his final letter to his mom, Debbie Lee, and we hope to get this fixed up in a second. He wrote, and I quote, "How can we come over here and help a less than fortunate country without holding contempt or hate towards them if we can't do it in our country?" And Debbie, as you just heard her, added the fact that he made reference to modeling the on-field heroism of sports stars. He didn't mention Colin Kaepernick specifically, but Debbie, we're glad we have the link restored. And if you can hear me now, what do you believe Mark would say about Kaepernick's protest?
I think Mark would be disgusted as well. I think he would tell him, Colin, you need to not sit. You need to stand. I stood for my country. I sacrificed my life.
And we're working to restore that again. Debbie, I'm not sure if you can hear me. We have a little bit of a faulty Skype link tonight. We should also point out that Army veteran and double amputee Noah Galloway spoke with Hollywood Today Live, and he had a very specific message for Colin Kaepernick.
He has that right. You know, if he doesn't want to stand, he doesn't have to. But just like I have a right to say, you kid you are being a jerk and not understanding what this country stands for. There are changes that need to be made, yes, but you are disrespecting our brothers and sisters of all different races and nationalities that have given their lives for this country.
A correction to make, obviously it's Colin Kaepernick, but the sentiment expressed by that veteran directly to the camera speaks volumes. Noah Galloway on Hollywood Today Live. We have restored our link now with our friend here, and I just have to ask you, as you take a look at all that has happened, Debbie, what should others keep in mind? Because there's a difference between rights and responsibilities. How would you explain that distinction?
Exactly, and I think, as I was trying to share earlier, that Mark paid for every one of us in America, along with every other veteran who served, for us to have the freedoms that we enjoy each and every day. But as you said, with those freedoms comes responsibility. If you want to do something in this country, stand up and make a difference. Do something, be active. Don't just sit and complain. You know, that doesn't change anything. So why my opinion is different than Colin's on what he believes, it's his opinion. So he needs to get out there and actively do something, not disrespect the flag that represents this country. Mark talks about that in his letter. He said, this is a great country or we wouldn't be living here. Colin has a choice where he lives, and he needs to represent on that football field the America that Mark died for, the America that we so love, whether it's for white, black, purple, pink, whatever. We are America. We are a nation, the best nation in the world.
Well, you know, it's interesting, going back to the whole notion of rights versus responsibilities, it's worth noting that someone who coached Colin Kaepernick in the NFL, Jim Harbaugh, now back in college football at the University of Michigan, spoke out against his former quarterback's action. Let's listen to Coach Harbaugh and what he had to say.
I acknowledge his right to do that, but I don't respect the motivation or the action.
Now, Debbie, believe it or not, the coach got some heat later on for saying so clearly he was opposed to Kaepernick's actions. It seems to me that, and again, forgive me for making a comparison to the military, but a coach in college football, certainly in college football, is like a commanding officer. The coach has a form of autocratic rule over those who take action. So many coaches say, you know, people have the right to self-expression. Isn't there a case to be made where coaches say there's conduct that includes respect, no matter the political disagreements you might have? Could you see some sort of pathway to, quote, protest, but to do so with respect and at least stand for the anthem? We've got about 30 seconds.
There is a time and a place for protest, and disrespecting our...
Debbie Lee, tonight from Phoenix. Obviously, we are having some difficulties with the Skype feed, but you heard her loudly and clearly, remembering the sacrifice of her son, Mark, and pointing out that, yes, our system accommodates free speech and protest, but there is a time and a place and a purpose. Now, a reminder, we're happy to take your phone calls on this program, get your thoughts about the topics we've covered and those we're about to cover. You can call us at 1-877-NEWSMAX. That's 1-877-639-7629. When we come back, we continue to monitor the primary elections in both Florida and Arizona. And of course, there are continued concerns about possible hacking into the voter registration systems in both Arizona and Illinois. Are the Russians really behind it? Pete Hoekstra and Stephen J.J. Weissman up next when we continue.